Investors are asking me all the time, where has all the cash flow gone? It's super hard to find cash flowing rental properties, at least here in Northern Colorado. There's a few reasons why this is going on. Prices are up, interest rates are up. Rents haven't really followed the spike in prices and rates. So yeah, cash flow is becoming harder to come by. But here's some solutions to make sure you can still invest and still earn cash flow. I'm Chris Mullenberg, founder of the Mullenberg real estate team at eXp Realty, and I've been investing in real estate for over a decade. I've been working with a lot of investor clients this whole time, and so I've really started to feel where the trends are going, beyond even just the data. And here in Northern Colorado, for example, and if you're in a hot market somewhere in the world, you know that cash flow is becoming harder to come by. So here's some solutions to consider as you want to keep growing your portfolio. With 20% down on a rental, on just a single family home, it's not really cutting it these days to cash flow. So here's some other ideas. First off, look in up and coming markets. So like here in Northern Colorado, Fort Collins prices are tough. Even Loveland these days has gotten up there. But, say Greeley or Wellington or Severance, there's some surrounding communities that the prices aren't quite to the same level, but rents are pretty strong still. So consider up and coming markets. I've even heard of folks investing in places like Pueblo, Colorado, or other, towns where you can still buy a home for like $150,000. So something to consider if you don't have a ton of capital to work with. Another category, of course, this is a tried and true category over years, is multi-units. So even if you can find a small 2-unit where there's a home with an ADU or a mother-in-law suite that you can rent as 2 units legally, duplex, triplex, fourplex. Usually as you start getting into the multi-units, you get a little better cash flow dollar for dollar. One of the most exciting growing categories around the country is group housing. There is so much need out there for group housing. And a lot of times these group housing rules can get around. Like in Fort Collins, we have U+2, so you can't have as many tenants in a home to get your cash flow up. But group housing can get around those rules legally. And these are things like sober living, recovery homes, correctional facilities. You've got homeless veterans, HIV positive folks. There's a lot of communities in need that need housing. And group housing is a way to do good in your community and improve your cash flow and your investment. There's a lot of grant money too from the government going on nationwide for these communities in need. So check that out. Let's talk real quick about Airbnb and short-term rental, because of course this was the craze in the last few years. People were just killing it with short-term rentals and quoting like, oh, I'm making 80 grand a year net on a house. Well, that has cooled off. And the reason why that's cooled off is that a lot of cities and municipalities have clamped down. They've put rules in place, moratoriums on adding new Airbnbs. So if you were grandfathered in, you might still be doing great. But we're seeing a lot of the short-term rental investors starting to get pretty shaky in their boots. They're not seeing cash flow. And kind of the post-COVID world, it seems like people rushed back to doing vacations, and that's kind of calmed down again, and the supply of short-term rentals has gone up. So it's harder to cash flow these. So just beware. There's still opportunity in the short-term world, but it is certainly not the slam dunk that it was a few years ago. One final tip too, if you're going to be in the Airbnb or short-term rental world, make sure you've got a plan B or plan C or an exit strategy. That's where a lot of investors got into trouble. As soon as that really strong cash flow went away, their numbers only worked on that property when they were cash flowing, 10 plus thousand a month. If that goes away, you need to have a plan B. Can I long-term rent it? Can I mid-term rent it? Can I sell? You need to have some other options before you get into that. One interesting category to keep an eye on is corporate furnished rentals. So these are like mid-term, folks that need the house anywhere from say 30 to 90 days. These are people that either maybe they're building a home and they need a transition, or they're placed in a city for a corporate work reason. This is a growing category for investors. You might not cash flow like you were with the short-term rentals, but you get pretty steady and above market rents for a completely furnished turnkey rental. The final place to consider for more cash flow in today's market is looking out of state. Now, this depends where you're at in the country. If you're here in Northern Colorado, like I said, cash flow is pretty hard to come by right now. But I'm working with a lot of clients who are now looking in up and coming markets, Ohio, upstate New York, places in the South. So there are upcoming markets where you can still get into a home for, like I said, under say $250,000. You put a little money into it. You can refinance your way out of it. Not everybody's comfortable with a home they can't physically drive by and see, but I'd say start to get a little more comfortable because people are doing it successfully all the time. Get a great agent and a great set of contractors on the ground in that market, and you can have a really nice cash flowing passive income property in another state. Hey, I hope these tips were helpful. I'm part of a real estate investing community here in Colorado. If you would like access to all that we learn at our meetings every single week and month, just hit me up. Would love to bring you into the fold, and learning is always great, especially if you're talking about building wealth. So we'll see you out there.